Hello, in today's video, I'm going to be giving my opinion on transgender sport. In this specific case, it's all about swimming. And my question is, do transgender women belong in women's sport? Now, I'm not going to answer that just yet, but I will do once we've gone through the video. The reason for that is this. There's more to this than meets the eye. It's not literally just about swimming, in my opinion. The way I'm going to portray this video is literally how it starts from the beginning. The main character in this video was born as William Thomas, and he started swimming at the age of 5. And as he progressed through his school years and college and eventually went to university, he continued his swimming career in the men's category. And then everything changes. So let's find out from people's point of view what happens to them and why they believe that William, who is going to transgender to a woman and become Leah. Let's see everything from their point of view as well as William stroke Leah. This is Riley Gaines, who is going to tell us about how she first finds out who Leah Thomas is and what her thoughts are on competing with that person.
In about November of 2021, which is about the middle of our season, I had made it my goal to win a national title. And middle through of our season, I was ranked 3rd in the nation behind one amazing female athlete who I was very familiar with because, like most sports, your top tier athletes tend to know each other. Yeah. But ranking 1st was a person I had never heard of before. And of course, this name was Leah Thomas. But at the time, just looking at this on paper, it didn't really make much sense to me because this person was a senior and I'd never heard of them and came out of nowhere and was leading the nation by multiple seconds in multiple events ranging from the 100 free, which is a sprint, all the way to a mile, which is a distance event.
Riley points out there that as you're going through competitions, you get to know the athletes that you're going to be swimming against, which makes perfect sense. So you can understand her surprise when someone called Leah Thomas is suddenly in this competition and no one has heard of this person before.
And so there were so many red flags, but it never once occurred to me that this could be a man just because that was so far out of reach. Yeah. A couple days after these nation-leading times were posted, an article was posted disclosing that Leah Thomas did, in fact, formerly swim on the men's team for 3 years. And so I'm reading this and I'm like, wait, so this is a guy? And when I read this, I was shocked, of course, but I truthfully felt relieved because when you look up Will Thomas at this point, you can see that they were ranked 462nd in the men's division. And so seeing that on paper, I thought surely the NCAA wouldn't let this person compete with us.
Unfortunately for Riley and all of the other competitors, the NCAA does let Leah Thomas compete against them. So you've got a person who says that they are a woman and yet still has male genitalia. I know this is not going to be a popular opinion, but this is my opinion and I am entitled to it. You can leave your opinion down in my comments, but in my opinion, that should never have happened. Now, don't get me wrong, I grew up with a person who was born a boy, and as they grew up, they said all along that they didn't believe that they were a boy, that they thought they were in the wrong body, and they did eventually in adult life transition to being a woman. They had all of the treatments, the operation to actually become a woman. And do I think there's anything wrong with that? No, no, I don't. I don't have anything against that person whatsoever. That person was not trying to enter sport. Now, if that person had tried to enter sport in the women's category, then I would disagree with it until they had actually become a woman, until they had had that operation. Now, would they still have had an advantage? Yes, because being born male, you have a larger lung capacity, you are generally taller, you have broader shoulders, you have a much longer reach, you have more muscle mass, you have a bigger heart. So, yes, you have got all of these advantages that women simply don't have. And in my opinion, that is not fair.
If you don't know how swimming works at this level, you swim in the morning, you have to swim prelims, but you have to qualify for finals to come back and swim again at night. So top 16 make it back and swim again. And so I'm watching prelims in the morning, and there's several heats, maybe 8 or so heats. And so this girl comes up next to me. She had just swam in one of the earlier heats. Her name is Reka. She swam for Virginia Tech. She's a 5th year. She was from Hungary. And she stayed in the U.S. I asked her, I was like, why did you take your 5th year? And she said, I've wanted to become an All-American. And so she was standing next to me. She was out of breath. Her heart rate was high. And she was watching the result board to see if she made top 16. And she realizes as the last heat dives in the water, which this is the heat that Leah is swimming in the morning, she realizes she's going to be right on the cusp of making it back. She watches Leah dominates, beats everyone in the water by seconds, which in swimming, even 1 second is a ton. But Leah beat everyone in the water by multiple seconds, body lengths. And these are Olympians. These are the most impressive female swimmers of all time. But again, beats everyone. Reka looks up to the result board and she realized she placed 17th. And we're standing next to each other and she grabs my hand, looks at me with tears coming down her face. But she grabbed my hand, tears rolling down her face, and she says, I just got beat by someone who didn't even have to try.
These swimmers have trained for their whole life to be in these competitions. They put in hours and hours and hours every single day to get to this elite level. Can you just imagine how they feel being knocked out by someone who identifies as a woman? And that, to be honest, is not the only issue here.
Next day was when Leah and I raced each other, and we swam the 200 freestyle, and crazily enough, we tied. We went the exact same time down to the 100th of a second, which is pretty rare.
Yeah.
And so upon tying, I go behind the awards podium where they give you these like dinky little trophies and they parade you out. But the NCAA official looks at me and says, great job, y'all tied. The trophy goes to Leah. We'll eventually mail you yours. And so I kind of look at him and I quickly question him and I'm like, okay, I understand there's one trophy, don't account for ties, but what's your thought process on giving it to Leah? Why are you so adamant? And he said, well, for photo purposes, Leah has to have it.
You've just competed in the swimming pool. You get a dead tie, and then the woman, the actual biological woman, is told she can't hold the trophy for that place. That is absolutely outrageous. That is disgusting. If there's only one trophy, then they should both be standing there holding it, surely. I mean, where's the common sense in any of this?
But it was at this moment that I realized not only were we being forced to compete against a man, 6'4", a man.
Yes.
Were we being forced to change in a locker room with a man? We were being sidelined to validate the feelings and the identity of a man. And it just felt like we were reduced to like a photo op. But the thing is, so of course we knew going into the meet we would be competing against each other. But we were not forewarned in any capacity that we would be sharing a locker room. And so the swimming locker room, it's not necessarily a place of modesty. you've grown up swimming, especially when you're at the elite level that we were. You put these suits on that are like skin tight. It takes like 15 minutes to put these suits on. So it's a process to which, of course, you have to be undressed. But as a girl growing up in that environment, you become okay with being vulnerable in that situation because everyone there is in the same situation. I was in the locker room, obviously putting my suit on, and all of a sudden it got dead silent. I turn around, this person's towering over every other person in the locker room, drops the clothes, full male, like a fully intact male with male genitalia.
What the actual hell? That person with male genitalia is now in the female locker room. I understand they identify as a woman, but physically, they are not a woman. That should never, ever have been allowed to happen. They should be in the male locker room. And I don't care what they identify as. If they don't want to be in the male locker room, then they should go into a toilet cubicle and change in a place where there's only that one person. No, 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 no. That is just not right. That's disgusting. If I had a child there in that situation, I would be absolutely furious.
So keep in mind, we're accommodating one person at the expense of everyone else. England, they're having similar problems as to what we're facing in America. But there's a shot put athlete, her name is Amelia Strickler, and she just recently spoke up, which caused a slew of all of these Olympic athletes, both male and female, Olympic champions, all of these people to speak out against this, to which their athletic governing body of the country has now created a rule to where this won't happen.
As Riley says there, in the UK, they've made a rule where this is not going to happen. And now that leads on to the next part of this story. So Leah wins the title, but then the rules get changed, and Leah doesn't like this. So Leah brings a legal battle, and this is what happens about that.
Now, NBC News has learned that transgender swimmer Leah Thomas has quietly been mounting a legal challenge to rules that would keep Thomas out of the Olympics and other top-level competitions. A lawyer for Thomas says the challenge brought to the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland looks to overturn rules issued back in 2022 that prohibit trans women from competing in women's swimming events unless they transitioned before the age of 12.
I don't actually agree that they should transition or be changing their bodies at the age of 12. I understand why the ruling was brought into place. It was to actually physically stop this from ever happening again in any sport. This is not just about swimming, this is all sports where a transgender woman or someone who identifies as that is going to compete against women. But I just don't agree at the age of 12.
World Aquatics, the group that made the rule, did not respond to NBC's request for comment. And those rules were issued just a few months after Thomas made history in March of 2022, becoming the first openly transgender woman to win an NCAA swimming championship.
What reaction do you have toward other folks who feel that you shouldn't be able to compete?
Trans women competing in women's sports does not threaten women's sports as a whole, because trans women are a very small minority of all athletes, and the NCAA rules regarding trans women competing in women's sports have been around for 10 plus years, and we haven't seen any massive wave of trans women dominating.
Trans women competing does threaten women's sports though, because women in sport need to be safe. This is a non-contact sport, it's swimming. But the rules have got to apply across the board regardless of what sport it is. Can you imagine me being in a boxing ring with Mike Tyson? One punch and I would be on the deck. and I could potentially be unalived. That is the point. It's all about the physicalities between a man and a woman. Just because you're transgender, that does not mean that you are not physically stronger than a woman. Because at the end of the day, yes, you are. Now we're going to go through the ruling. Transgender swimmer Thomas legal case over ban dismissed. American swimmer Leah Thomas has had a legal case against governing body World Aquatics dismissed by the Court of Arbitration for Sport. World Aquatics WA voted in 2022 to stop transgender women from competing in women's elite races if they have gone through any part of the process of male puberty. Thomas, 25, who became the first transgender athlete to win the highest US National College title in March 2022, was attempting to overturn that ban at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, for short CAS, arguing the rules were discriminatory. CAS first had to determine whether Thomas was eligible to challenge the rule. The 24-page verdict, CAS said Thomas was simply not entitled to engage with eligibility to compete in WA competitions as someone who was no longer a member of US swimming, let alone compete in a WA competition, and therefore was not sufficiently affected by the rules to be able to challenge them. WA praised the ruling and said it is a major step forward in our efforts to protect women's sport. World Aquatics is dedicated to fostering an environment that promotes fairness, respect, and equal opportunities for athletes of all genders, and we reaffirm this pledge, a statement said. Our policies and practices are continually evaluated to ensure they align with those core values which led to the introduction of our open category. So basically, what they did was they changed it to 3 categories. So you had the men's category, the women's category, and the open category. And the thing that makes me laugh is in the open category, no one turned up. No one wanted to be in the open category. So basically, they're saying that they are discriminated against, but they were actually given their own category. So how can that be discrimination? We remain committed to working collaboratively with all stakeholders to uphold the principles of inclusivity in aquatic sports and remain confident that our gender inclusion policy represents a fair approach. Riley Gaines, reacting to this in a tweet, said, now the NCAA need to strip Leah of every award, title and record that was stolen from a deserving female athlete. And to be honest, I do really agree with that. The thing is, though, when Leah was competing, that lost people scholarships as well as an awful lot of money. Tristan Tate also tweeted, plus track down every girl who came forth and give her the money, scholarship, bonuses and trophies that she deserved for coming in third place. Now to answer the question of what I personally think about transgender women being allowed to be in sport. I've probably made it 100% obvious through this video that no, I don't agree with that. Yes, I agree they should have their very own category and that is how it should be moved forward from this point. Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Ta-ta for now.